Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our session, 5 Essential Strategies for First-Time Managers, with our special guest, Evan Tzivanakis, Certified Executive Coach and Leadership Consultant. My name is Alexander. I'm part of the marketing team here at IvyExec, and I'll be helping to moderate today's session. Before we begin, I have a few brief housekeeping items for our audience. First, all attendees are in listen-only mode. However, we encourage you to engage in the session by asking questions, which you can do using the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. Please make sure to use this feature for all the questions, as well as any comments or feedback you may have for the presenter. We'll be having a formal Q&A session, so please feel free to send in your questions throughout the session. Additionally, we're recording today's session, so you can look forward to receiving a copy of the recording via email in the coming days. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our returning speaker, Evan Tzivanakis. Evan Tzivanakis is the author of Leading in VUCA Times, a capability manager with strong commercial experience, a strategic business consultant, and a university adjunct lecturer at EU Business School. With a wealth of experience and expertise in leadership and organizational dynamics, Evan has been instrumental in empowering countless individuals and businesses to achieve their full potential and thrive in the face of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity of VUCA in today's dynamic business landscape. Evan leverages a unique blend of empathetic understanding and strategic acumen to guide and mentor leaders towards unlocking their true leadership potential and navigating challenges with confidence and poise. His remarkable insights and innovative approaches have earned him a stellar reputation as a transformative force in the fields of leadership development. Welcome back, Evan. Great to have you back again.
Great to be here, and Alexander, and nice to see you. And thank you for the always overwhelming introduction. And welcome to all our attendees. Nice to meet you. My name is Evan. As Alexander said, I come from a commercial background. I am not an HR person. So what I am about to share with you today are, I suppose, experiences, failures, mistakes, and some of the successes that I have experienced as a first-time manager. I became manager for the first time at the age of 25 when I was living in the UK. I was kind of thrown in the deep. And today I want to share with you some practical tips that hopefully will help you along the way. You know, it's a journey, I think, that matters, not the destination as a manager. And I believe we always learn something. Even when you have a lot of experience, you always learn something. So I'm not going to share any PowerPoint presentation. I talk from the heart. I talk from experience. I will mention some kind of bullet points. So I recommend you guys having a, I don't know, pen and paper and taking some notes. And please, let's make it interactive. Type your questions in the chat. And at the end, we're gonna have 10-15 minutes Q&A. So I'm good. You know, today's session, you know, it's a long subject, right? As a, you know, being a first-time manager or a new promoted manager. So I decided to focus on one thing, and you might want to write it down, is the mindset. You know, because this is where everything starts. Do you have a manager's mindset? And what is a manager's mindset? So let me share with you a story that happened to me a couple of months ago when a first-time manager came for support, because I work with a lot of managers to support them develop their career, earn more money, get that promotion, increase their influence. So if you are committed to your own career, we can have a conversation after the webinar maybe Alexander, you can add in the chat my LinkedIn profile so people can contact me there. So a few months ago, a first-time manager contacted me on LinkedIn, and we have started the conversation. And that lady, she was a senior developer at a software company, and her manager identified her as a high performer. So her manager asked her to coordinate a team of developers to work on a project. And she told me she was really excited actually about the opportunity to start moving into a managerial role because she is career motivated. And then she said to me, she put the team together, they started to work, but after a couple of weeks, she started to become frustrated. And I asked her why, and she said things that were simple and easy for her were not getting done by her team members. So just after a few weeks in that new role, in that new responsibility, she went to review the code that her team members had written, and she found herself in a situation where she wanted to delete it, she wanted to scrap it, and do it all by herself from beginning. And I've asked her why, and she said to me, I know that if I work a few extra hours, I will probably match the output of all three of them together, of all three of her direct reports. Now, this scenario is very common, and maybe you have experienced it when you first got promoted as a manager. Okay, it is very common when an individual, when is asked to make the leap from expert to manager. Okay, it is usually we think like this as first-time managers. If I do it, I will probably do it faster and better. But this is not the mindset of a manager. This is the mindset of an individual contributor, of an individual employee. Okay? So if you jump in and you try to do everything for your team, it's going to work. Practically, it's going to work, but this is not a sustainable strategy, and this is not a manager's mindset. So what is the mindset of a successful manager? For me, the mindset of a manager is this. My success depends on the performance and success of my team. My success depends on the success and performance of my team. And this is the manager's mindset. Because why? Because ultimately, a manager needs to focus on what? On becoming a successful coach, a successful mentor, a successful teacher, in order to help their people develop and grow. And I suppose, in most of the roles, to increase the overall productivity and capacity of the team. So being an individual employee and being a first-time manager or a supervisor requires a different mindset. It requires a drastic change in mindset. And what is the difficult part, you might ask me, is the process that is difficult for many of the recently promoted managers. And I see it all the time. According to research, I think it was Gartner, the company who have done the research, 70% of first-time managers fail within the first 2 years. There are a few reasons why they fail. The number one reason is they never get trained to manage. Okay? They never get trained to manage. Because what do you do when you are an individual contributor? You are not coaching. You are not coordinating with others. This is not how you spend your days as an individual employee. You just do your work and you go home and, you know, you don't track the improvement of your direct reports. You don't have conversations. You don't check performance and give feedback. You just do your thing, right? So let me share with you, after having a sip of coffee, some bullet points to keep in mind as you work on shifting your mindset. Now, some of these suggestions, guys, they may seem obvious, but the fundamentals, I don't know why, sometimes they have a way of flying out of the window when new responsibilities pile up and the pressure is on. It's always easy to say in theory, right? So please take notes. I'm going to share with you 4 or 5 tips, and I'm going to talk about them. And then what you need to do when, you know, this podcast finished straight away or after a few days, take the bullet points and do some work on yourself. And if you like, if you're committed to develop, let's have a chat on LinkedIn. You can contact me there. So number one, the first tip I'm going to give you, and this is a mistake I have done, is I was looking short term. Number one, take the long view. What do individual contributors do? What do employees do? I was an employee. All of us here were an employee before we became a manager, right? We keep our head down and we focus on getting work done. But managers, you need to do that, but at the same time, you need to be looking further ahead. In the work I do with a lot of managers, both junior and more senior, I see that good managers spend a lot of their time anticipating challenges, creating a roadmap that pulls together what each team member is working on independently. So take the long view. Good managers, I suppose, you need to see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture involves doing 2 things well. As a manager, you need to have a very strong understanding of the needs and the goals of your department as well as your company. What are the needs and what are the goals of your department, maybe, or your team and the company? Why? Because clarity, because you see managers, they work every day and you need to take a long view. I call it, you need to get on the balcony. No, don't go to the balcony of your house now or your company. What I mean is, metaphorically speaking, you need to go on the balcony and look down and see, take a long view. What does my team need? A bit of a helicopter view. Because managers, especially new promoted managers, they're very busy working on the daily tasks. So you need to understand of the need, and this will give you clarity in the goals of your department or your company. And clarity equals the clarity about the ecosystem in which your team operates equals, it will help you anticipate your manager's expectations. And number two, once you know what you want, once you understand what the company wants and needs and what you need, then you need to look at the second thing is understand the capabilities of the individuals of your team. What can they do? What can they not do? Why? Because if you know your team's capability, this will give you the ability to better forecast when your team will be stretched or when it will experience bottlenecks, and then you set expectations, training, and support accordingly. So that's my number one tip. Take the long view. It's not easy because you are working on your things and you need to manage and all that, but take a step back, take a deep breath, and find time to go on the balcony and take the long view. What does your company and or your department needs and goals? And then look at your team. What are they capable of doing? Are they capable to help us reach the needs, which will then reach the goals? Because sometimes we're asking people to do that they're not capable to do. Do they need support? Do they need training? Do they need product? I don't know. But this is what you need to look at. You need to be a little bit strategic and you need to take the long view. Second tip, ask more questions. When I was a new manager in Bristol in the UK, I was 25 years old. Some of my team members were struggling, and what did I do? Every time they came to me with a problem, I will jump in to give them the solution. And this is wrong, because it is very tempting when you are busy to just hang out answers or do the work yourself, just like my client did. After all, you probably know what needs to be done because you've done the work yourself, right? And quickly provide the solution, because that will give you time to go back to your own work faster. But if you get into the habit of being the answer dispenser, that's how I like to call it, you will not give people the chance to figure it out themselves. Just like a kid, just like a 1-year-old kid, you cannot keep holding their hand when they learn how to walk, because they will become too dependent on you and scared to walk by themselves. So ask more questions. So what do? When a team member comes to you with a problem, ask them a set of open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are questions that start with how, why, what, tell me more about it. Where open-ended questions are questions that it gives the opportunity to the other stakeholder to speak. Closed-ended questions are questions where usually the answer is yes or no. Are you going to have dinner after this webinar? Yes or no? So if one of your team members comes with a question, clarify. So please, I understand what you're saying. Can you please tell me more about it? That's one question to ask, and then they will tell you. So another question, because some team members will come and tell you, so what seems to be the problem, is another question. They will tell you blah, 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 blah. Okay, I understand now. Another question to ask, then third question is, so what do you suggest that we do? By the way, when you ask the questions, you need to shut up and look at them in the eye and smile. So what do you suggest that we do? Blah, blah, blah. So who do we need to talk to? Who do you need to be, doesn't need to be involved? If you, another question I asked, very, very powerful question. If you were me, what would you suggest that we do? And this is where you are coach, manager as a coach. Asking questions is a great way to help a team member work through a problem. Okay? Don't give them the answer straight away. Yes, you need to provide the solution. Maybe you will be the decision maker, but let them think through the problem. Let them come with suggested solutions. That's how you develop people. You don't develop people by giving the answers all the time. You develop people by challenging them. So that's my second tip I give you. Ask more questions, open-ended questions. The third tip I would like to give you is to be practical and focus on what and when. So my first tip to you is take the long view. The second is ask more questions. Number 3, focus on what and when. What do I mean? Why did you get promoted? Because as an individual employee, you were probably rewarding for perfecting the how of getting your work done. So now as a new promoted manager, you might have great ideas about what makes you more productive and allows you to do your work best. But what works for you but might not work for others. And others might come up with new ideas or techniques or solutions that you haven't thought or considered. So what do you do? When you set goals with your team, you need to focus on what do we need to achieve, what are the deliverables, and when they need to be completed. But leave the details of how of the process up to each person. Let them figure out the process. We are at this side of the river. We want to cross the river by tomorrow morning. Figure it out. Propose a solution. Are we gonna walk through the water? Are we gonna build a bridge? Are we gonna put stepping stones? Are we gonna rent a helicopter? Don't be too much involved in the process. Of course, when someone asks for help, or if you observe a team member struggling, of course, you support them. But even in the situations like this, we should approach it with an open mind and never dictate what should be done unless in crisis situation. But here we're talking about business administration. Another, I believe, strong reason to focus on the goals and not the process is to avoid micromanage. Put your hand up if in your career, I hope it's not happening in your current career, in your current job, put your hand up if you had at some point in your career the kind of manager that always hanged over your shoulder, look at what you do and tell them how to do your job. Was it frustrating? It's the most frustrating thing. So focus on what and when, not on the how too much, unless you have a very new employee or they need a lot of help and all that. No one's, show your people that you count on them. No one enjoys having their manager look over their shoulder and tell them how to do their job every day. It's, if you want to frustrate your team members, please go ahead and do it. My fourth tip is to trust your gut. Trust your intuition. Trust your gut. Now, what happens is this, right? I remember when I became a manager, I told you, when I was kind of thrown into that role, I went a bit off balance, because how do I balance my daily responsibilities as well as supporting my team? How do I make sure I hit my target as well as my team hits the target? So that made me, because I had to learn new things and behaviors and learn, and you need to have a learning mindset. But it made me feel like I was wrong all the time. But my instincts are still valuable. What do I mean? If you feel like a project is going off the rails, do not wait until it's too late to respond. Now, you may be figuring out, you may be finding out how to be a good leader, and this doesn't come overnight. But your sense, your feeling, your observation from experience of whether the work is being done and done right is likely on target, especially if this work is something that you have done yourself in the past. So if you feel or see that something is wrong, trust your gut and jump in. And sometimes many new managers delay confronting a team member who is missing deadlines or, I don't know, struggling in some way. Because why? We don't know how to deal with the problem productively. We don't want to upset the person and all that. Giving feedback is a totally different subject. Maybe, Alexander, we can run it next time. But do not wait until the situation gets worse. As soon as you feel and you see something, sit down and have a conversation. Okay? Check in with your people regularly. Don't overdo it, but check in. How are you doing? Do you need any help? Ask them specific questions, and from their answers, you will understand where they are. Because you know what? As a new manager, because you probably know the work they are doing, if you feel, I'm telling you, if you feel something is off, it probably is. And the last tip is fill out, relax, be patient. To shift your mindset from the day-to-day responsibilities of an individual employee to the broader view of a manager and leader takes time. You will not learn these skills overnight, and please do not be discouraged if you have some setbacks. Expect them to happen. No one is born a manager or a leader. When the baby comes out, the doctor says, a boy is a boy, is a girl, is a manager. We learn how to do it. Okay? The mindset of a manager, the techniques of a manager, of a leader, can be learned and can be honed with practice. So again, if you are committed, reach out to me on LinkedIn. So closing, I want to ask you a few questions, write them down, and after the webinar, when you are at yourself. But let me give you the 4 tips again. Number 1, take the long view. Number 2, ask more questions. Number 3, focus on what and when. Trust your gut and be patient. Take time. So the question I want to ask you is this, 3 or 4 questions. And you know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. So number 1, are you seeing your direct reports' strengths and weaknesses clearly, or are you comparing them to yours? Are you taking the long view, anticipating challenges and expectations? Are you asking more questions more often than dispensing answers? Are you setting clear deadlines and deliverables, but leaving the how up to the team members? Are you second guessing your instinct? Don't. And are you giving yourself enough time and you have patience when it comes to your own development as a manager? You need to learn to enjoy the journey. And leadership and management, it's a little bit like a muscle. Every now and then we need to train it. Are leaders born or made? If I teach at the EU Business School and theories, and back in the days 50, 60 years ago, leadership training and all that, it hasn't been developed. So people thought they are made. They compared Winston Churchill and Mahatma Gandhi and all that. But with the development of leadership and management theories and a lot of trainings, coaching, what I do, for example, leaders can be made. Managers can be made. There are many tricks and strategies and techniques to learn on how to become a better manager, how to become a more influential leader. Because what is a manager? What is a leader? Leadership is fellowship. If you don't have followers, you're not a leader. Do people like you? Do people want to work for you? Do people follow your guidance? Do they know you? Do they trust you? Learning progress. Alexander.
Yes, sir. We have received a couple of questions, so I'll just jump right to them. The first one says, how do you approach giving constructive feedback without damaging relationships?
Yes. There is a formula to follow, which is called, actually, I wrote about this on my LinkedIn a couple of days ago. First of all, what you have to do when you give feedback to somebody, you tell them this: I would like to give you some feedback, but it's nothing personal. I am not judging you based on your personality, based on who you are, but I want to give you feedback about your work. So you separate the person from the subject, and you need to tell them that. This is how you position it. This is how you control their expectations. So you tell them, because some people, especially in some cultures, they will take feedback personally. So this is the first thing that we tell them, that you're going to give them feedback, but this feedback is not about them as an individual. And that's how you do it. I have something here maybe to share. Give me a second. So that's the step number one, because some people, I'm telling you, especially in some cultures, they will take it very personal. They think it's you against them. So for especially also if you're going to do it online, where body language can be easily misunderstood. So I will give you, I have it here. If you can see on my phone how to give feedback is from my LinkedIn post. So a model that I like when I give feedback is the BEF model. B is for behavior. E is for effect. F is for future. So let me give you an example. Number one, you describe the specific behavior you observed. Let's say I'm giving feedback to Alexander. Yes, Alexander, in the recent team meeting that we had, I noticed you interrupted a few colleagues while they were speaking. So this is the behavior. Now I'm explaining the impact of his behavior. This disrupted the flow of the discussion and made it difficult for others to contribute their ideas. And then I talk about future, BEF. I suggest a constructive action into the future. What I suggest, Alexander, in future meetings, and since I work with you for a few months, and I know you have fantastic ideas, you see, I suggest, Alexander, allowing others to finish their sentence before jumping in. This will create a more inclusive environment for everyone to share their thoughts. What do you think about that, Alexander? And I close with a question to allow the other person to talk, and they will say, yes, you're right. So to then be accountable for themselves. So BEF, behavior, effect, future. And I think this model is simple, keeps feedback clear, specific, and forward-looking, ensuring the recipient, in this case Alexander, understands the behavior, how to improve it, and closes with a question to give the other person the opportunity to speak. BEF, behavior, effect, future. You see, giving feedback is one of the most challenging things for managers because it's not done right. So that's the formula you use if you want to give proper feedback without damaging relationships. Next question.
Thank you. And a great follow-up question to that would be, what's the good strategy for keeping everyone aligned with our goals, especially our remote team?
Yes, fantastic question. It goes back to hiring. You know, it goes back to hiring. You know, are they the right people for the project, for the team, for the company? One way to align is to know your people. What do I mean by that? People, sometimes C-suites executives, they tell me, Evan, how do I engage my people? And this is my answer. You don't engage them. You engage one by one. How do you engage your people one by one? You sit down to have one-on-one conversations, either face-to-face, casually with a cup of coffee, or virtually, casually with a cup of coffee. And you ask them questions where it will give you the opportunity to get to know them more and find out more about them. Because as a manager, the more you know about your people, the better you can manage, and the better you can put everybody in the right job with the right responsibilities. So for example, if I have a team, if I am a manager and I have 5 direct reports, I will have 5 conversations with my people. And I might have it once every month or once every 2 months. Don't do these conversations very often. So the questions I ask, how do they feel? What is the thing they enjoy the most in the company? What is the thing they enjoy the least? Any suggestions? What support they need? Where do they see themselves in the company in the next 3 to 5 years? Are they looking to take on more responsibilities, or they feel they are not ready yet? No problem. So if I have Alexander now and Maria, for example, in my team, and I know that Alexander, in my conversation with him, told me that yes, he wants to take on more responsibility, but Maria is not ready yet, or I can sense it, she doesn't want. No worries. As long as she does the job right and legally she can be in that role. But when a new project comes up, I will involve Alexander because he told me he wants to take on more responsibility. So if you want to align your people, get to know your people. The more you know about their life, their career aspirations, the motivation, the better you can manage. Like, if you have an employee that his kid is going to school and it's the first month in September and they go to school for the first time, maybe they are going to kindergarten, 4, 5, or 6 years old, and they know in the morning the father or the mother, your employee, will struggle a bit because the kid needs some time to adjust, or sometimes maybe the parents need to stay a bit longer in the school. It's not just drop off. Maybe they need to stay a bit longer for 10, 20 minutes. How do you know this? You don't know unless you speak to your employees. So if you realize that that's the problem, you can tell them, hey, listen, what do you think we should do? Blah, blah, blah. And then you can suggest, hey, why not for September, for the next month, for 4 weeks, I understand what's happening. Why don't you start at 10 o'clock rather than at 9? So that will take a lot of pressure off. So if you really want to engage your people, sit down and have conversations with them. The more you know about their personal life and professional life, career aspirations, the better you can manage. Alexander, back to you.
And speaking of knowing and understanding your people and problems, what's a good approach for addressing underperformance early without discouraging the team?
Yes, the best approach is you need to follow the feedback formula, BEF, behavior, effect, and future. Sit down. You need to know what the problem is. What is the problem? Underperforming. Maybe they are not doing a lot of sales. Maybe they missed the sales target, or their job is delayed, or they are late every morning without a reason. So sit down and discuss. And then you need to set the standards. So behavior, what is the behavior? Behavior, the result. What is the effect? And what is the future that you would like to see? And that's number 1. That's the first step that you do. Find out why. If it's not improving, maybe the second step, it would be for the employee to have a discussion with the HR. If it's not improving after another month or 2-3 weeks, the third, maybe they will get a warning letter. But the first thing that you should do is to sit down and have a conversation. BEF, behavior, effect, future. Alexander, as you have noticed, for the last couple of months, your sales have been reduced by 25%. The effect is that the sales productivity as a team goes down, and you, for the last couple of months, have lost $3,000 of commission because of this. what I would like to see, blah, 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 in the future. And then you ask a question, and then you set a target. That's how you bring it up, and never procrastinate. If you feel, again, something that is wrong, jump in without wasting time. Alexander, back to you.
And now shifting the focus from employees to managers, a question says, from a manager's perspective, how do you assure insecure managers who feel threatened by one of their direct reports' competency or expertise and don't expose their direct reports to higher ups in the meantime?
Yeah, they will never get I had this kind of manager before. I had a manager once that he didn't train me well because he thought me or other people will take his job. So they will never get along. These people, sorry, they will never get far in their career. So what you can do, actually nothing. Focus on you. The company is not only them. Focus on you, focus on your productivity, make sure that you deliver your work on time, never expose yourself. Do not allow this person, this manager, to tell you anything bad about your work. Do not give him or her the right. Focus on you, focus on your productivity, focus on your professionalism, make sure you're professional all the time. Do not give him any right to say something bad about you, and sooner or later, things will take their own way magically. So focus on you, on your professionalism, and on your productivity, and on your quality of work.
And a great follow-up question to that says, how can I support my team's development while juggling my own growth as a new manager?
By following the 4 or 5 tips I gave you. I hope you made notes. Go back, watch the webinar again. At the end of the webinar, before Q&A, I have also some questions that I've asked you to ask yourself. Write down the answers and see where you are according to the answers of those questions, according to the tips I have shared with you. I think I have covered that throughout the webinar, right? This answer, this question.
Right, and next question is a great question. It says, what are effective ways to manage my own stress while leading a team under pressure?
You need to know yourself. One way I manage my stress is by going to the gym and by going for a walk. For me, I'm the kind of person that inactivity makes me tired. I don't get tired from work. So you need to know what refreshes your mind. It could be sleep, it could be exercise, it could be watching a movie, it could be taking a walk in the park, it could be going for a drink or food with friends. You need to know yourself. For me, it's exercise, physical exercise, a walk in the park, going to the gym, sweat, taking shower. That's number one. Number two, when you don't work, don't work. When you work, work. What do I mean? If it's the weekend or if it's after 6, 7 o'clock, close your laptop and don't do any work. You will go back next day or on Monday more refreshed. Sometimes it's good to take breaks. We have an opportunity to clear our mind, so when we go back to work, we see things more clearly. So try to avoid doing work on weekends and after your work schedule or that. We really all need a break. Your mind needs to think other things. So know how you operate as an individual, what mentally and physically refreshes you, and do it. And the third thing, and again, I can support on that, reach out to me on LinkedIn, is having somebody to support you, to discuss with you your challenges as a coach, as an executive coach. So those are the 2-3 steps that you can take, because you're human. Everybody is a human. We need that, you know, we need that refreshment, we need that break. We need to have somebody maybe as a sounding board. You see a lot of work I do with my clients. Sometimes I'm just there as a sounding board, and all they do is talk to me, and all I do is listen. And by then talking to me and me providing guidance, consultancy, advice, questions, they feel better because they take the pressure out of their system. If you want to be a high-performing manager, you really need to have somebody that can support you one-on-one. I have. Yes, Alexander.
This is an interesting question. How do I encourage collaboration among team members who prefer working independently?
Yes, there will be some people that prefer independent, but they need to understand that, they are part of the team. If there is an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go with a team. So you need to make sure that you hire the right people. If you have people that constantly want to work independent, it's going to be a little bit challenging, because we know 100% of the times in a business environment, it is always about teamwork. Yes, people working independently in their own capabilities and tasks and job scopes, but for the car to drive, all the tools, the steering wheel, the gearbox, the brakes, the wheels, need to coordinate in order for the car to move forward. So explain them that analogy and explain them the expectations. At some point, sometimes less, sometimes more, they will need to cooperate and to communicate as a team. And you need to make sure that this is clear, maybe from the interview process. So maybe, I don't know who does the interview in your company, maybe you are the hiring manager, maybe the HR. You need to make it clear, and also you make it clear in your onboarding.
Thank you. The next question says, how can I build respect from my team when some members are older or more experienced than I am?
Yes, I had that. You don't need to, you just need to focus on your work. You don't buy respect. You don't gain respect by telling your people, you need to respect me because I'm your manager. You focus, you do your work, you are there when they need you, you don't have any biases, younger, and then you will gain that respect. Focus, do your work, be professional, be polite, be there, treat everybody equally, and you will gain respect automatically and step by step. Your results and your work ethic will speak for you. You don't need to speak too much.
Thank you. And the last question says, what's the best way to balance transparency with keeping sensitive information private?
Yes, you need to know what information is sensitive. Sometimes, there is information that some of your team members, they don't need to know. So you need to know what can be shared and not. Maybe there is some data from your clients that they don't need to be shared. Maybe there is some information that they don't need to know. So you need to know what you can share and what you cannot. If you're not sure, you discuss with your manager. I mean, I'm sure there will be a manager there for you. So, maybe sales went up this month, but profitability of the company went down. They don't need to know that, but they need to know that sales went up for motivation and to create momentum. So you need to know at what level information is shared. If you're not sure, discuss with your manager. And you need to look at the positives. You need to look at the positives. Try to, you know, when in a company, when in a department you have momentum, when positivity is happening, things are easier to do rather than negativity. So try to share positives to create that momentum, to give your people a feeling, a sense of things are happening, we are going places, I want to be part of that journey. Alexander.
Thank you, Evan. Any final thoughts for our audience?
Final thoughts. Enjoy the journey. And if you really want to develop those skills, you will. I think it's having the, to be, I think it's about being thirsty to get knowledge, to develop yourself, to be a better manager and a better leader. If you want, you'll find a way. Okay. And one more is, the more you manage, the more years of experience you have, the more you realize that is all about people. It's all about people. Every and any technicality can be achieved if people work together in harmony. So if you know how to balance those relationships, and if you're an influential leader, you will achieve success, because in any company, it's all about people. It's all about people. So the mindset is, my success depends on the performance and success of my team. If they succeed, I succeed. Just like in a sports environment. When the team wins, the coach is celebrated in the media and everywhere. When the team loses, the coach gets sacked, right? So please understand that if you want to succeed, your team needs to succeed first. Thank you for listening. Good luck. Reach out if you need special support, and thank you, Alexander.
Well, thank you again, Evan. It's always a pleasure to have you present for the IvyExec audience. Thank you so much for your time and all information and expertise that you shared. And I would also like to thank you all for joining us today, for sharing in your thoughts and your questions and your comments. As we mentioned at the beginning, we have recorded today's webinar, and we will ensure to share the webinar recording in the coming days. And I would just like to leave you all with a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.